Do you have a friend who follows a trend, then drops it, then follows another trend, then drops it, or seems to have a new hobby every week?
你咧有冇一個朋友咧會成日跟住潮流走嘅？咁有陣時咧就放棄跟呢個潮流去跟其他啦。咁不斷又重複，甚至乎每個禮拜咧都有一個新嘅嗜好走咗出嚟。
Maybe that's not your friend. Maybe that's you.
或者我講緊嗰個唔係你嘅朋友，係你咧。
And maybe that's harmless, but if it's a faith trend, maybe it's not.
咁咧原本咁可能都無傷大雅嘅，但係如果講緊一個信仰嘅潮流咧，呢一樣嘢就唔係無傷大雅，係好有害。
So now more than ever, there's a universe of knowledge in your pocket and at your fingertips.
而家咧一直以嚟啦好多時咧都係全宇宙嘅奧秘咧喺你個袋喺你個手上面嘅喎。
If you want to hear Christian speakers, you can hear 100 flavors, easier than buying an ice cream.
喺今時今日，如果你想聽一個基督徒嘅講者去分享嘅時候咧，你能夠聽到隨時有過百個你會中意嘅基督徒講者。你聽呢啲人講嘢咧，係易過走出去買雪糕嘅。
Yeah, and then after hearing this Christian idea and that Christian idea, you might be confused. You might get confused and be like what Paul calls an infant, tossed back and forth by the waves, blown here and there by every wind of teaching.
但係咧，當你聽到好多呢啲所謂嘅基督教嘅想法嘅時候，聽到呢個又聽到嗰個嘅時候咧，你可能咧會覺得好模糊。好唔知點算，就好似保羅所講嘅，好似小孩子咁樣咧，係飄嚟飄去，喺唔同嘅教導裏邊。
I know people like that. They've come to me and told me about this problem, and it's no fun for them, and it's stressful. It's not good.
咁咧，我真係自己我都認識到一啲咁嘅人啦。咁佢哋咧喺咁多嘅概念入邊咧飄嚟飄去嘅時候咧，佢哋都好大壓力。呢一個咧都唔係講玩嘅。
And Paul deals with how to avoid this problem, and he gives us some good reminders how to live our Christian life. And let's jump in at Ephesians chapter 4.
咁咧喺以弗所書第4章嘅時候咧，保羅咧就話俾我哋知點樣咧去處理同埋避免呢啲問題，俾我哋有一個好好嘅提醒。一個基督徒嘅生命咧係應該係點嘅。
Okay, verse 1. I'm going to read verse 1 to verse 5 first. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called, one Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all.
咁喺以弗所書第4章第1至6節啦，大概就係我為主作囚徒嘅勸你哋你哋咧行事為人咧，要與你哋所蒙嘅呼召相稱。凡事咧謙虛、溫柔、忍耐，用愛心互相寬恕、寬容，以和平彼此聯繫，竭力保持聖靈所賜嘅合一。身體咧只有一個，聖靈只有一位。正如你們蒙召是為同有一個指望而蒙召，一主一洗一神，一主一信一浸，一神就是萬人之父，超越萬有之上，貫通萬有，在萬有之中。
This message is as fresh today as it was 2,000 years ago.
呢一個信息咧，無論2000年前或者今時今日咧，都係一個好新鮮、好好嘅信息嚟。
Hey guys, there's one God, and this one God is our Father and Lord, and His Spirit, just one.
各位，呢度咧只有一個神㗎咋，呢一個獨一嘅神咧係我哋嘅父，我哋嘅主，同埋佢嘅靈，只係一個㗎咋。
There's one immersion and one hope.
只有一個浸同一個盼望㗎咋。
And this is the one hope. Jesus saves.
呢度咧係有一個盼望，就係耶穌拯救。
And you are called to that one hope, and you accepted it, and you joined the body, the one body.
然後咧，我哋話呢一個唯一嘅盼望咧，如果你接受嘅咧，你都加入咗呢一個唯一嘅身體啦。
Our little church here or your big church over there isn't the one body. It's part of that one body.
所以無論係我哋呢間咁細嘅小型教會啦，或者你嗰間好大嘅教會啦，我哋都唔係每一個獨立嘅身體，而係喺呢個身體裏邊嘅一部分。
This denomination or that denomination isn't the body, no matter how big a particular congregation gets, they are still only part of the one body.
咁咧，我哋所講嘅呢一個宗派啦，或者嗰一個宗派啦，都唔係整個身體。無論你嘅教會會眾有幾多，有幾犀利，有幾大，你都只係呢個身體裏邊嘅一部分。
And the body being all divided up with like no cooperation and one group at odds with another group isn't right.
所以當呢個身體咧分開分裂，即係我哋講緊可能每個基督徒或者每個教會或者會眾，佢哋分開做嘢唔合作嘅時候咧，呢一樣嘢其實唔啱喎。
And since we were all called to this one thing, we have to make every effort to keep it unified by keeping the peace between each other.
所以當我哋咧去講我哋係一件事一個身體嘅時候咧，我哋就需要去盡我哋嘅努力咧，去大家互相保持合一。咁點樣保持合一啊？就係透過我哋之間都係和平啦。
Now that's a simple idea, right? But it's not easy. It's hard work.
咁咧聽起嚟好容易，但係咧做起嚟好難嘅喎。
Here's the simple recipe. The idea is simple. Here it is. Love each other by being completely humble.
咁我哋點樣去保持之間嘅和平咧？有一個好簡單嘅方法，就係咧我哋互相謙卑地去愛對方。
Love each other by being completely gentle.
我哋用我哋完全嘅溫柔咧，係互相相愛。
Love each other by being patient.
我哋透過我哋嘅忍耐、耐心咧，去愛對方。
Imagine if you really did that. Wouldn't there be peace and wouldn't there be unity?
我哋想像一下，我哋如果能夠咁樣做嘅時候咧，我哋咧會唔會有和平同埋合一咧？
Now this works. How it works? It starts between two people, and then within the small group, and then between groups, etc.
咁咧，我哋頭先講到用愛啦，用好多唔同方法去愛嘅時候咧，我哋首先從兩個人開始，然後慢慢咧會成為一個小群體，然後到慢慢咧變成一個群體。
It's not something that's going to happen by accident. It's something we have to work at. And since it's hard, we could use some help, right?
咁咧呢一樣嘢咧，唔係一個突然之間一個意外就能夠發生嘅，我哋要持續不斷嘅去練習，去點樣去互相相愛，嚟到慢慢發展出嚟嘅。
So where do you think might be a good place to get some help?
所以咧喺度諗喎，要做呢件事嘅時候咧，我哋可能要揾啲幫助幫我哋。
Let's ask Paul in verse 7, Ephesians 4, verse 7. But to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it. This is why it says, when he ascended on high, he took many captives and gave gifts to his people. What does he ascended mean? Except that he also descended to the lower earthly regions. He who descended is the very one who ascended higher than all the heavens in order to fill the whole universe.
咁咧，我哋去點樣去得到幫助咧？保羅就講到啦，第4章第7節開始，我們咧每個人蒙恩咧都係照基督所量給每個人嘅恩賜，所以有話説，他升上高天嘅時候咧，擄掠咗俘虜，將各樣嘅恩賜咧賞賜俾人。既然話佢升上，咁即係話佢曾經降到地上啦。咁嗰個降下嘅咧，就係高升遠超諸天之上嘅，為要充滿萬有。
So, did you catch it? Where do we get the help? We get help from Christ because he gives us gifts we don't deserve or earn, and that's the grace. The reason is so that unity and peace will reign in God's kingdom.
你睇唔睇到我哋喺邊度得到幫助咧？冇錯啦，就喺耶穌基督嗰度啦。咁咧，基督俾到我哋嘅恩賜同禮物咧，係我哋唔配嘅。但係咧，透過得到呢啲恩賜同禮物咧，我哋就可以喺神所掌管嘅國度裏邊咧，合一同埋有平安和平喺度啦。第7至10節咧話俾我哋知咧，基督咧係喺地上一個勝利嘅使命度嘅。
So it might be this looks a little bit hard to understand, but it's really telling us that Christ was victorious in his mission on this earth. He came down here, he descended here, he triumphed over death with a big D.
咁咧喺呢頭先講到啦，就係基督咧透過嚟到世上呢一個使命咧，去得到嗰個勝利喎。咁呢一個咧聽起嚟好似好難去理解啦。咁其實就講緊咧，耶穌降到嚟呢個世間嚟到我哋中間嘅時候咧，佢咧就勝過死亡喎。呢一個死亡咧，仲要係一個講緊所有嘅全面嘅一個死亡，耶穌已經勝過。
Look at verse 8. It's some language. Now, that's old language and a picture we don't know very well. But it's the language back then of a conqueror returning home, leading those he captured in battle, and bringing home the spoils of war. And you've got the spoils of war, and then you distribute it to the citizens as gifts.
第8節咧，其實就講緊一個好似一個征服者啦，一個皇帝啦，咁出去打仗嘅時候咧，佢贏咗啦，翻去家鄉嗰陣時咧，佢就將嗰啲戰利品啦，將佢打仗所得到嘅嘢啦，就分俾所有嘅市民。
Jesus is the conqueror. He's won the battle, and now he comes back with gifts to give. And these gifts are listed in verse 11.
咁咧，耶穌咧就好似呢一個打仗嘅領袖咁樣啦，佢贏咗啦，然後咧就將嗰啲禮物啦、恩賜啦，就發放俾所有嘅佢嘅子民喎。咁呢個禮物咧係講緊係乜嘢咧？就第11節我哋睇得到啦。
Verse 11, so Christ himself gave the apostles, the prophets, the evangelists, the pastors, and teachers to equip his people for works of service so the body of Christ may be built up until we all reach unity in the faith and in the knowledge of the Son of God and become mature, attaining to the whole measure of the fullness of Christ.
咁以弗所書4章11節開始講到啦，保羅話佢咧基督咧就將賜俾所有嘅使徒基督所賜嘅有使徒、有先知、有傳福音嘅、有牧者、有牧師，咁咧去裝備佢嘅子民啦、佢嘅聖民啦，去透過服侍嘅工啦，咁所以咧藉著咁樣咧，基督嘅身體咧就可以建立起嚟，直至到咧我哋達到合一，喺信裏邊達到合一啦。 而且認識神嘅兒子啦，同埋會長大成人。我哋都能夠長大成人，達到基督完全成長嗰個身量，嗰個身體建造。
Okay, are you following? Are you still following the train of thought? We need peace and unity, and we need help, and Jesus gives us help. That's the grace he gives us. He gives us help by giving us what? People. Certain people are his gift to us to help us have peace and unity.
咁咧基督咧就賜俾我哋佢透過合一啦、和平啦，賜俾我哋好多嘅恩賜啦，以至達到咧我哋咧能夠有一個成長嘅身量啦，亦成熟噶啦。咁係。
So these leaders they help the believers in different ways to get prepared to love others by serving them.
所以咧呢一啲領袖啦，頭先所講嘅使徒啊、先知啊、傳福音啊、牧者啊、教師，呢啲領袖咧會幫助啲信徒咧喺唔同層面上、唔同方面上去幫助佢哋，令到我哋每一個人咧都可以預備好去互相相愛，去服侍大家。
The purpose of the gift of leaders is also so that the body of Christ, the whole big group, can be unified in their faith and in their knowledge of Jesus and become mature and become as much like Jesus as possible.
咁呢啲所賜俾領袖嘅恩典咧，就係令到可以喺基督嘅身體裏邊啦，咁可以大家一齊喺嗰個信心信仰上啦，同埋透過對耶穌對神嘅兒子嘅認識啦，去大家咧成群跟從耶穌嘅人去合一，而且咧達到一個成熟嘅身體、成熟嘅身量，就越嚟越似耶穌。
So how are you doing? Are you a leader, and are you doing these things that you're supposed to be doing? Are you a follower? Are you learning these things that you're supposed to be learning, and are you growing?
咁咧，我哋就要問一問啦。咁到底你又點咧？你係咪好似呢啲領袖咁樣咧？咁係咪不斷嘅去學習，不斷咧喺耶穌裏邊去成長，不斷嘅去幫助大家去互相相愛咧？
And the picture here of the babies is a picture of growing, right?
咁咧喺我哋一路所講嘅事情裏邊咧，嗰個圖畫咧，咁其實唔係一個 BB 喎，係講緊一個人不斷嘅成長去長大。
So the question isn't so much to say, oh, are we already all mature, or you look at someone in the group and say, hey, how come this baby is here? That's not the question.
咁咧唔係講緊咧你嚟到呢班人裏邊咧，就睇到，哎呀呢個只係BB 仔啊，或者嚟到咧會發現，哇個個都好壯健喎，好壯大喎，咁樣唔係咁講喎。
The question, I think, should be to ask ourselves, have I grown? Am I growing? Am I the same level of maturity in my Christian life as I was 1 month ago or 1 year ago? Or am I the same?
所以條問題咧，唔係你嚟到你睇到其他人係點，你係問自己，你望下自己，你問自己覺得我有冇成長到咧？我仲係咪好似 BB 仔咁咧？同一個月或者1年前比，我嘅成長到底有幾多咧？係問自己喎。
But the goal is to grow up, and the goal is to be mature. And when you're mature and grown up, there's some advantages.
咁咧，我哋嗰個目標咧係要成長起嚟嘅，係要成熟嘅。
right? Because when you're just a faith baby, it's no fun because you get confused when you hear all the different ideas thrown about by evil people pretending to be on your side for personal gain.
咁咧，如果你淨係BB 仔咧，其實就冇乜樂趣嘅。反而當你係一個成熟嘅人嘅時候咧，你能夠做到唔同嘅嘢嘅時候咧，你就能夠有唔同方面嘅得着啦。咁有邊個想做小朋友咧？小朋友咧，其實就冇乜樂趣可言嘅，因為好多時，如果你仲係一個好似屬靈嘅小朋友咁樣，你會不斷咧聽到唔同嘅嘢，然後咧就會不斷咧好混亂，然後咧喺當中裏邊有好嘅有唔好嘅，咁但係有啲壞人咧，佢扮好似同你同一個陣線咁樣，咁然後咧就去講啲唔好有差別嘅教導，唔啱嘅教導。
Let's read what Paul says about it in verse 14. Then we will no longer be infants, tossed back and forth by the waves and blown here and there by every wind of teaching and by the cunning and craftiness of people in their deceitful scheming.
咁咧，保羅講到啦，我哋就唔再作小孩子，唔會咧隨風飄擺，飄嚟飄去。好似俾風一吹咧，咁咧就中咗嗰啲詭計欺騙嘅法術。
When evil people who are cunning and crafty and liars, they have a plan to trick you and to trick us for their own personal gain, and so they teach this or that.
當呢啲壞人咧，佢可能用咗一啲基督嘅道理、假嘅道理，去呃你，去欺騙你，做呢啲欺騙嘅法術嘅時候咧，其實佢哋係有心嘅，係有計劃性去做呢啲嘢，而達到佢哋自私個人嘅目的。
And if you're a faith baby, you won't know what to do, and you'll be confused, and it's like you're tossed back and forth. But if you're a mature believer, you can spot the deceitful scheme, and you can see the lies, and you won't be tricked by ideas that are false.
如果你係個 BB 嘅時候咧，就會講到好似頭先咁樣，你見到好多呢啲似是而非嘅教導，甚至乎啲假教導嘅時候，你會飄嚟飄去，你唔知點揀，你唔知點算。但係如果當你喺基督嘅身體裏邊成長起嚟，你係成熟嘅時候咧，你就識得去揀，識得抗拒，識得去做翻啱嘅。
So verse 15, instead, speaking the truth in love, we will grow to become in every respect the mature body of him who is the head, that is Christ.
所以咧，第15節講到啦，反之咧，我哋要用愛心說誠實話，喺各方面咧向着基督長進，聯手於基督。
And from Christ, the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love as each part does its work.
咁咧，從耶穌嗰度，從耶穌呢個完整嘅身體裏邊啦，我哋會一齊聚埋一齊啦。但係8節各按其職，照着各肢體嘅功用咧，彼此用愛中在愛中建立自己。
Do you see the contrast there? Deceitful scheming and truth.
嗰個我哋喺呢度咧睇到啦，嗰個最重要嗰個係講緊一個誠實嗰個真理啊。
Instead of believing the lie, you can know the truth and you can be mature enough to express it.
我哋咧我哋如果要講真話，唔講大話，我哋睇得到啦。我哋要有 一個成熟嘅身體，一個成熟嘅靈命咧，先至好知道乜嘢係真嘅，亦都能夠講真説。
Do you watch or hear a Christian speaker and you think, something doesn't seem quite right about that, but I'm not sure what?
有陣時咧，可能聽到一啲講道嘅人啦，或者有陣時你聽到一啲基督徒佢講嘢嘅時候咧，佢雖然話基督徒啦，但係有陣時你聽佢講嘢好似硬係覺得有啲問題唔係好對路喎。
You know it, but you can't express it because you're not mature enough in your faith to be able to express and tell someone and help someone else avoid the lie.
但係當你聽到呢啲人講嘢，你覺得唔對路嘅時候咧，你又冇辦法去企硬去指正佢哋。點解啊？因為你仲係好似個細路仔咁樣，你唔係成熟嘅，你唔能夠好容易或者好清楚知道你所信嘅，然後去更正佢哋。
And look at the picture here. Notice it's the group. It's not just one individual. What if it's talking about the group, the body of Christ, the whole thing being unified and mature, not just the individuals in it?
我哋咧要睇呢幅圖畫嘅時候，我哋睇到基督嘅身體咧，我哋唔係睇緊一個個人嘅，我哋每個人都係呢個身體嘅一部分。咁當我哋望翻基督嘅身體嘅時候咧，我哋要喺呢個身體裏邊咧係要合一嘅，而且咧喺呢個身體裏邊係要成熟嘅，唔係好似 BB 咁樣嘅，咁樣先 OK。
But it's not going to work unless each part does its work. So are you doing your part?
但係咧呢個身體咧所做嘅嘢咧，一定要各個肢體各安其職咧，先至能夠發揮出效果。如果唔係會冇效。
Are you growing? Are you growing in yourself, in your maturity, in your faith? Are you taking deliberate action to grow?
到底你有冇實際上有行動去令到自己去喺呢個身體裏邊成熟起嚟，去做好呢啲事咧？
And if you're a leader, you all have some area of influence, all of you. You might not be a leader of a big group, but you're a leader of somebody. There's somebody who's in your area of influence. And are you leading them also into maturity in the faith?
當你係教會嘅領袖嘅時候啦，當你領導大家嘅時候啦，你係要領導大家一齊咧向住嗰個成熟嘅基督成熟嘅身體嗰個目標嚟到進發嘅。你唔係單單普通去帶領大家喺就話喺主裏邊就算嘅，而你自己都要係朝住呢個成熟嘅目標咧，都不斷嚟到成長。
It's sad enough if you're just sitting there like an unused muscle that loses, atrophies, that dies. That's sad enough. But my other question is, are the things you're doing destroying unity and destroying peace?
咁咧，如果你係作為一個領袖啦，咁你唔係咧就咁坐喺度乜都唔做，你明明有力量你唔用你冇去，你如果作為一個領袖，你冇去帶領大家去合一，去互相相愛嘅時候咧，你冇帶領呢件事咧，其實就已經破壞緊大家嘅合一同埋愛，因為你有能力冇去使用，係咁樣諗。
我想講你唔喐咧，唔好講領袖啊，任何人啊，你係信徒，你唔喐咧已經係唔好嘅。但係會唔會啦？想你問翻自己啦，會唔會係啦？ 你係反而咧做緊啲嘢咧係破壞緊教會裏邊嘅平安，教會裏邊嘅合一。問自己啦。So here's a good measurement. Here's a good measurement. Speaking the truth in love.
咁咧，你成唔成熟咧，就有一個好好嘅量度嘅指標嘅，就係講緊你係唔係用愛心說誠實話。
There has to be a good balance of both.
咁咧同埋嗰個合一啊，咁咧呢一樣嘢咧係用愛心說誠實話，有一個平衡喺度嘅。
All truth and no love is too harsh.
如果淨係講誠實話，冇愛喺裏邊咧，就係太過僵硬，太過係啦。
Yep.
太過嚴厲，太過嚴厲。Sorry.
Yep. All love and no truth is too weak.
如果淨係有愛心，但係冇誠實話咧，就太弱嘅。
But if we can speak in truth and love, well balanced, then we're going to go a long way to creating peace and unity between ourselves, in our group, and in the larger group.
咁但係如果我哋能夠用既有愛心，亦都能夠講誠實話嘅時候咧，咁我哋咧就能夠喺呢個合一啦，同埋和平嘅呢件事上面咧，去無論喺我哋自己個人關係或者喺一班人裏邊，都能夠做好呢一種嘅合一同和平。
So if you can be brave enough to honestly examine yourself, let's say, and you realize, oh, I'm not doing too well. Okay, don't give up. Just admit it. Get up again. Try again. Don't give up. You can do it.
如果咧你能夠好勇敢嘅去面對自己，去檢視自己，知道咧自己可能喺唔同嘅方面做得唔夠好，可能唔夠愛心，或者唔夠講誠實話嘅時候咧，或者唔同方面上唔緊要嘅，再一次企起身，再一次去成長，去長進，去慢慢越做越好。
Let's pray.
我哋一齊祈禱。
Dear God, you are the Father of all, you are over all, and through all, and in all.
親愛嘅神啊，你係所有眾有之父，你係萬有嘅，超過萬有嘅，亦都喺萬有裏邊。
You give us the perfect example of unity.
你係俾到我哋一個完美嘅示範咧，關於合一。
Thank you for those people you have given us who help to equip us to be like you.
感謝你咧，俾到我哋賜俾我哋一啲人咧，去幫我哋去合一，去更加似你。
We take responsibility for the division which appears in our lives and in our assembly and between the assemblies.
我哋咧去負起我哋嘅責任啦，無論喺我哋嘅聚會，或者喺唔同嘅聚會之間，唔同嘅教會之間咧，去活出我哋嘅生命。
Please help us to do our part to build up your body through our service, through our love and action.
你幫助我哋咧喺建造你嘅身體裏邊，我哋透過我哋嘅服侍啦，透過我哋用愛心嘅行動咧，去完成我哋喺你建立身體上嘅功用。
Increase our patience.
求你增加我哋嘅耐性。
Increase our gentleness.
增加我哋嘅溫柔。
Increase our forbearance.
增加我哋嘅饒恕。
bring us to maturity and stability in our faith.
求你賜俾我哋成熟啦，同埋穩定性啦，喺我哋嘅信心裏面。
In Jesus' name, may it be so.
祈禱奉主耶穌基督嘅名字禱告。